The stars had always fascinated Lieutenant Kara Vey. Even as a child, she would spend hours lying on the cracked roof of her family's colony on Erebus Prime, staring at the pinpricks of light scattered across the obsidian sky. There was something about the endless void that whispered of both danger and destiny. But she never imagined that one day, that destiny would involve the survival of humanity itself. It began with the arrival of the Zorathi Collective, a species of beings who had long considered themselves the custodians of the galaxy. Towering, insectoid creatures with chitinous exoskeletons, the Zorathi spoke in a combination of clicks and harmonics, a language that few humans could fully comprehend. What was clear, however, was their message. Humans were a liability. The first contact had been formal, cautious. Representatives from the United Earth Federation had been invited to a neutral station on the edge of Zorathi space. Kara had been assigned as a security liaison, more out of her skill in diplomacy than combat, though her combat record was impeccable. Sitting in the sterile observation chamber, Kara watched as the Zorathi Council deliberated over humans through the translucent energy barrier. Their words, translated in real time, made her blood run cold. Humans, one of the counselors clicked, its multiple eyes glinting with disdain. They are unpredictable. They waste resources. They cannot be trusted to maintain galactic stability. Kara frowned, leaning forward. Her voice was steady but sharp. For who are we a liability? The question hung in the air. The counselors turned their multifaceted eyes toward her, a subtle ripple of surprise passing through their ranks. For a species that considered themselves highly logical, the humans' question was almost audacious. You are a liability to the collective order, another counselor replied. Their expansionist tendencies endanger planets, species, and alliances. We cannot allow them freedom without oversight. Kara's fists clenched. So you decide the fates of entire civilizations because of fear? What gives you that right? The council's chamber was silent, the hum of the station's energy systems the only sound. Then, almost imperceptibly, a single counselor's gaze lingered on her. Perhaps, it said in measured clicks, there may be exceptions. Kara didn't know it yet, but those words were the opening she needed. The test came 2 weeks later. Humanity had been allowed to demonstrate their utility, or so the Zorathi claimed. Kara and her squad were deployed to the outskirts of a war-torn system where a rogue faction of crystalline marauders had been pillaging inhabited colonies. The Zorathi were observing from orbit, their monitors cold and clinical. Humans were to act as a test of their self-control, efficiency, and survival. Failure would confirm their liability. Kara's team touched down on a fractured planet, its red skies swirling with ash and plasma storms. The ground trembled beneath their feet, jagged crystal formations jutting from the soil like broken teeth. Keep your eyes open, Kara said, her voice steady over the calm. They want to see how fast we panic, how fast we fail. The marauders didn't wait. They descended in crystalline ships, their weapons firing shards of energy that tore through the landscape. Kara's squad responded with precision, moving in calculated formations. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were also adaptable. Kara noticed one of her squad members, a young engineer named Soren, improvising a defensive field using the planet's own magnetic currents. The Marauders' energy blasts ricocheted harmlessly. Impressive, Kara muttered. Humans thrived in chaos, using their creativity as armor. But this wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a demonstration. Every move was scrutinized. By the end of the first day, the Marauders had been repelled, their ships scattered, their forces disoriented. Kara's squad, exhausted but unbroken, watched as the Zorathi analysts recorded every detail. Yet, as the day turned into night, a new challenge emerged. A seismic storm, far beyond any normal planetary weather, began tearing through the landscape. Rocks fell like rain, and energy fissures tore open the surface. The Zarathi had predicted humans would struggle. After all, humans lacked the protective exoskeletons or psychic harmonics that the Zarathi relied on. But Kara refused to yield. "Form a perimeter," she shouted. "Soren, get those shields operational. I don't care if we have to rewire the entire grid." And humans did exactly that. In the middle of a collapsing planet, under relentless pressure and imminent death, they adapted. They built, rerouted, and survived. When the storm finally subsided, Kara looked at her squad. They were bruised, bloodied, and weary, but alive. And more than that, they had done the impossible. From orbit, the Zarathi Council watched silently. It was a week later when the real confrontation occurred. The Zarathi summoned Kara personally to their ship, a colossal structure of living metal and glass, its corridors pulsing with a faint bioluminescent glow. "You have survived your trials," the lead counselor said, its voice a blend of clicks and melodic undertones. Yet, survival alone does not prove usefulness. It proves stubbornness. Kara's jaw tightened. If stubbornness means refusing to surrender to your fear-driven logic, then yes, we're stubborn. And we're not liabilities. The counselor's multiple eyes regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and irritation. "You question us. A human act of defiance. Explain your reasoning." Kara took a deep breath. "You call us liabilities because you fear what you don't control. You see only risk, not potential. Humans have survived ice worlds, radiation storms, and conflicts you could not even imagine. We improvise. We adapt. We endure. That is not liability, that is evolution in action." A pause. The Xanarthi counselors shifted slightly, their clicking slow. "And yet," Kara continued, stepping closer to the bioluminescent wall that pulsed like a heartbeat, "we do not destroy blindly. We do not invade indiscriminately. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We invent, we explore, we protect. Isn't that what order truly requires? Not control, but guardianship." The counselor tilted its head, a gesture almost human in its subtlety. Guardianship. Humans speak of morality as if it is measurable. Morality is measured in action, Kara said. In courage. In the willingness to face impossible odds not for gain, but for survival, for life itself. If that is a liability, then perhaps your idea of order is flawed. Silence reigned for a long, tense minute. Then the counselor spoke, its voice lower, contemplative. "You may not understand the scope of our operations. We oversee dozens of species across thousands of systems. A single human mistake could ripple across the galaxy." Kara's eyes burned. And yet, a single human victory could change the course of countless worlds. "You called us liabilities." I asked, "For who? For your comfort? For your calculations? Or for the people who actually live in this galaxy?" For the first time, the counselor seemed unsure. It clicked softly, almost like hesitation. Perhaps we underestimated humans. The next months were a revelation. Kara led human teams into Zarathi-sanctioned operations that no other species could survive. They rescued colonies trapped under collapsing moons, rerouted rogue asteroids from inhabited systems, and even negotiated peace between warring factions where Zarathi diplomacy had failed. Every success, every calculated risk, only reinforced the truth Kara had declared. Humanity was not a liability. They were a force of change. But it wasn't just about their abilities. It was their unpredictability, their resilience, their refusal to accept limits imposed by fear. Kara realized that the Zarathi, for all their intelligence, had never accounted for the human spirit, the spark that defied logic. That cooed human Zarathi Joint Command Station. Kara stood at the observation deck, staring at a system where a human colony had just been saved from annihilation. Commander Voss, a veteran Zarathi strategist, joined her. "You have proven interesting, Lieutenant Vey," Voss said. "Perhaps more than interesting. Humans may yet redefine the way the galaxy functions." Kara didn't smile. She simply said, "We don't need to redefine the galaxy. We just survive in it. We fight, we adapt, and we protect. That's all we've ever done." Voss regarded her thoughtfully. "And yet, survival and protection. Have you considered that in doing so, you inspire hope in others? Perhaps that is why the Council is reconsidering." Kara finally allowed herself a small, weary grin. "Hope, that's more dangerous than any weapon, isn't it?" Voss clicked softly in agreement. "Indeed. And yet, perhaps it is exactly what the galaxy needs." The turning point came during the siege of Virelia, a mining planet critical to the energy supply of half a dozen systems. The Zarathi had underestimated the Marauders again. Their warships were failing, and the planetary defenses were collapsing under overwhelming pressure. Kara's human strike team arrived as the last line of defense. Against impossible odds, they deployed improvised shields, coordinated civilians, and even captured the Marauder flagship using nothing but grit, cunning, and a bit of human luck. When the Zarathi Council finally assessed the outcome, Kara stood before them once more. This time, she didn't argue. She simply presented the results. Virelia intact, thousands of lives saved, Marauder threat neutralized. The lead counselor's multifaceted eyes fixed on her. "Humans, you have done what no other species could. Perhaps you are not liabilities. Perhaps you are assets." Kara's voice was calm, resolute. "We are humans. We survive. We fight. We protect. That is all we need to be. But remember this, if survival is a liability to you, then perhaps the galaxy has been miscalculating all along." A silence filled the chamber, thick with reflection. The counselors didn't respond immediately. And for the first time, Kara realized something profound. The Zarathi were learning from humans, perhaps for the first time. As she left the chamber, Kara thought about the question she had asked at the very beginning. For who are we a liability? It wasn't for humanity. It was never for humanity. It was for those who measured existence in spreadsheets, in probability, in control. But humans didn't operate by probability, they operated by will. By courage, by hope. And in that truth, Kara knew one thing. Humanity had finally earned its place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. Every child on Erebus Prime who looked up at the stars would know this. Humans were not weak. They were not expendable. They were the unpredictable force that even the most calculating beings had to respect. And somewhere, far beyond the reaches of human-settled systems, the Zarathi whispered among themselves, reconsidering the definition of order, control, and most of all, hope. Lieutenant Kara Vey stood on the observation deck of the station one last time. The stars stretched endlessly before her, but she felt grounded. She felt ready. Because humanity, for all its chaos and audacity, had proven one thing. When the universe called them liabilities, they became legends. And she knew that the next time someone asked her, for who? She could answer with certainty, for everyone who believed in survival, courage, and the impossible, not be calculated or contained. On a quiet night aboard A